Residents killed and hundreds injured in the worst tornado storm in 16 years. Details on the storm and cleanup efforts coming up next.
And sports with Mike Mallory.
These are pictures of the aftermath of the band of tornadoes that swept through the tri-state last night. More than 50 touchdowns were reported from at least 15 separate tornadoes. Good evening. 9 people are reported dead from the storms, 8 in Indiana and 1 in Illinois, and more than 150 injured. Twisters wreaked havoc on 24 towns and 14 counties in Indiana alone, the worst of which was Petersburg, where 6 were killed and dozens injured. That town is still recovering from recent floods, but last night a shortage of water was the least of their worries. It was around 7:15 p.m. Saturday when first reports of damage came in. Electric towers north of Petersburg were knocked down by winds. Less than 30 minutes later, another twister hit, this time near people. More than 200 were attending a wedding party when the tornado struck.
We got most of us down in the basement, and it hit. What I remember, I guess, was the noise, the pressure on your ears. We found an older man who was seriously injured. The ladies in the wedding party, the bride and 2 of her bridesmaids were nurses. They went out, pulled the man out, and put him on in the wedding dresses, put him on a door, and carried him into the Moose Lodge and saved the man's life.
Like one massive wall coming at me. There's no way to elude it. So I had the presence of mind to grab my jacket and cover my head and just lean over in the car. It was a rough ride.
Many homes and businesses were destroyed by the tornadoes. Emergency help came from all over.
There is the National Guard is involved in a door-to-door search, looking for injured persons. A civilian, Reverend Stratton from the First Baptist Church here in Petersburg, has organized a group of civilians, and they too are conducting a house-to-house search.
A local VFW building became a temporary hospital for about 25 tornado victims.
Nothing extremely major, a lot of broken bones, abrasions, and that type of thing.
At least 2 apartment complexes and a nursing home were leveled by the storms. Red Cross provided emergency shelter.
It is in the old gym on Walnut Street. We have cots, we have food at this time, coffee, water, and we'll do everything we can to give you shelter for the evening.
Despite the widespread carnage, residents could not picture the full extent of the damage until this morning's light. They emerged from shelters to assess the damage and began the process of rebuilding. Greg Reswick has more.
In the task of cleaning up or clearing out.
This is a family home that when we remodeled 20 years ago, they had bark on the timbers, and it's one of the oldest homes in Petersburg, and it may have to be bulldozed down.
Harris and 6 others were in the basement when the tornado tore through, leaving certain items untouched, but destroying most everything else. Clifton Hall and his wife were in their basement too and were almost crushed by a cement wall.
Well, it happened so fast you really couldn't tell. Just a split second, and I raised my head up and looked, and the house was gone.
What now?
I don't know. They go back to Tennessee.
All over Petersburg, residents gathered to survey the damage, talk about their experiences, and salvage what's left. 6 people died here in Pike County, and at least 57 were injured as nearly 170 homes and businesses were destroyed, while another 170 were severely damaged. Petersburg Elementary School was also destroyed. Governor Evan Bayh toured the area, saying it looked like the target of a bombing run. He's asking President Bush for an immediate federal disaster declaration. It's almost unthinkable to anyone here that this could have happened. 2 weeks ago, the town lost its main water lines to floodwaters. And now this. Did you think something would actually come through, or?
Not really. We've had warnings before, but this was the real thing.
And because it is the real thing, Petersburg remains sealed off to outsiders, as only property and business owners are being allowed in.
We're making a plea to the public not to come here to sightsee. You'll be turned away, and it just complicates the task.
Those who do want to help are urged to contact a local office of the American Red Cross. In Petersburg, Greg Reswick, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Bedford was another Indiana town hard hit by those tornadoes. One last night's tornadoes. Here's a list of some of those names. Albion Harper in Pike County, Billy Miner, Emma Willis, Frank Maylott, Marjorie Maylott, Gills Evans, and then in Illinois on Norma Wood.
Tonight with Peter Jennings, originating from San Francisco. Residents of Indiana are trying hard to get back on their feet after the worst outbreak of tornadoes to hit that state in 16 years. At least 10 people were killed and 150 injured as the twisters hit 24 cities in Indiana and inflicted more damage in Ohio and Illinois.
DCR 4666.
Wow. Major damage to the school, man. The back end's shot, completely gone. That's the old high school.
Man, there ain't nothing down.
Look at that house.
It's all cleared out. Just look through there, all the trees are gone.
What do you think?
Look at Lou.
Hey, that car didn't even scratch it. Yeah?
Wow.
We've got a box in here. Put in the basement. You good? If we just get
There's a house missing a roof. Three roofs in a row.
Now, Benny.
What do you think? Think you might get a new roof on that back porch now?
The whole garage is flat now. Everything's washed.
This is a scan of 4th, 2nd, and 3rd Streets from Sycamore. Back in the old co-op building. My God, this is where I was 15 minutes before it hit. That's Ernie's. Man. Bob and I just walked out of here when the siren blew. Looks like it got flipped up on its side. Didn't look like the bank got damaged.
Just about to make a deposit tomorrow, Martha. Top of the Boyd building. True values. The red onion is destroyed. From from the parking lot, from the Moose.
I don't know.
I think they said some of them were sitting in the parking lot and were blown over here. Just rolled over here. Look at this one. That's a house trailer. This is here's the bottom side over here. No. This is the front porch from Sue's house on South 8th Street.
After the tornado.
And there is Sue's hair hanging on the power line.
They scalped her with this.
Matthew, you and Nathan stay here. I'm gonna walk down the hallway.
We don't really recommend it.
Okay, I'm just gonna go down here to the edge of this doorway.
This is another third grade classroom.
You can video a lot through the windows if you like.
Okay.
Those are teachers and TV personnel down there.
Yeah. Every one of those are bent down exactly the same. That's amazing. Yeah.
Okay, you guys just came through, didn't you?
Yeah,
Don't put me on that.
Don't let this truck get me.
Weather with Susan Hyland. And sports with Randy Moore.
Good evening, everybody. It's one of those things that just doesn't happen to you or anyone you know. It happens to someone else, perhaps in a different city or even in a different state. This time, though, it happened in our backyards. A series of violent tornadoes killing 10 people, injuring 150 others in southwest Indiana. Federal help will be on the way now that President Bush has declared the area a federal disaster. But Kendall Cummings tells us tonight, Petersburg looks like a war zone in more ways than one.
Unless it's absolutely necessary, stay away from Petersburg. That's the word from Indiana State Police. Because Petersburg has become a disaster area due to the weekend's tornadoes, the town is being sealed off to outsiders.
It is our intent to limit the number of people in and out of Petersburg. What we want to do is limit that number to the people who have a need to be here, who are residents. We are at this time using 10 state police officers at all the locations entering and leaving the town of Petersburg to try to restrict that to people who are residents who have a real need to be here.
Until the area can be cleaned up, the town will be closed between the hours of 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Residents of Petersburg must obtain a pass from the Indiana State Police mobile unit located near the fire department in order to come and go through the town. The purpose for the passes is to help prevent looting as well as many other reasons.
Keeps the people that don't need to be in town out of town. That way people that needs to get their stuff out and they don't congest the highways and the streets, and people can get around. Helps the cleanup crews get by a little bit more instead.
If it is necessary to go to Petersburg, be aware that there is a roadblock upon entering town, so motorists going north on 57 should reduce their speed to help prevent any accidents. From Petersburg, Kendall Cummings, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Nightfall may bring some much-needed rest, but today, this day in Petersburg, the work was really just beginning. John Gadsden reports.
Even though it's been 2 days since a series of tornadoes ripped through Petersburg, some townspeople are still showing signs of shock. One of the things residents are crying about is that the Petersburg Elementary School has been virtually blown down. All 23 classrooms, the gymnasium, and the cafeteria have all been destroyed. Keith Smith, the town's 5th grade teacher, says he's lost just about everything, but he's thankful the school's nearly 500 students were not here when the tornadoes touched down. There were no children hurt. We're all okay, and so we'll start building again.
It's just a mess. The walls are down, and there's not much left of it.
My thinking right now is that the entire building needs to be bulldozed into a hole someplace, and we need to think in terms of building a new facility.
144 homes were completely destroyed by Saturday's twister. 99 houses suffered major damage, and 171 residents are in need of some minor repair. Officials are estimating Petersburg alone suffered anywhere between $5 to $10 million worth of damage. This, coupled with the town's water problems, have created a major disaster.
It's rather sad to see some of the people coming back, and basically all they're trying to find is a wedding picture or a ring or a piece of jewelry. It's not a happy scene in some of the cleanup areas.
Several incidents of looting have been reported, so state officials have called in National Guard troops to help with security. Help should also be coming in the form of federal relief.
There'd be an ability for low-interest loans in some cases, particularly for the municipality. There's an ability for grants, all sorts of different aid possibilities.
Electricity and phone service is back on in nearly 25% of the town. Residents are still cleaning up, but for some, scenes of Saturday's nightmare remain vivid.
There's a lot of things happen here, but we've got our life, and, we just got to pick up and go on from there.
Everything's just gone. It's just all gone, and I lost 3 of my neighbors, and it's been a horrible experience.
On Tuesday, the Federal Emergency Management Agency is due in to talk to residents about loans and other forms of emergency assistance. Reporting from Petersburg, Indiana, John Gadsden, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
And then there are the people who've come to help. Some of them suffered damage to their own homes, their own property. Others, though, just want to show they care. The story from Joe Grunhafer.
Many volunteers from around the state are pouring into Petersburg to help residents. One group, the Southern Baptists of Ohio, is serving meals to both residents and volunteers. How long do you plan on being in Petersburg?
As long as we're needed. I have 5 crews already ready to come. This is the first crew. We have 4 more, and each crew stays 3 days. So we're prepared to stay for 2 weeks.
Some local businesses have shut down so their employees can help with the cleanup.
We own a sawmill just about 3 miles edge of town, and we shut our business down to come in and do what we can do.
I feel that the people need help. I know if the disaster was on my side of town, they would help me.
People from other communities, such as Lagodi, Jasper, and St. Anthony, came to Petersburg to lend a hand to residents.
We were fortunate it didn't hit the St. Anthony area, and these people are in need, and we came down to help them out the best we could.
Whoever can come should come down here and volunteer to help these people.
And I feel that if it would have happened to our town, people would have come and helped us.
All volunteers need to register with the Petersburg Fire Department. From Petersburg, Indiana, Jill Grunhafer, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
There are many, many stories of heroism and sadness that have come out of the scene of this weekend's storms. We can tell you many, of course, but this one may be one of the more tragic. Benjamin Ray was born to Tim and Donna Ray of Bedford, Indiana, 15 months ago, their 4th child. The family had just returned from the grocery store when they heard the storm coming down the hill right near their mobile home. Mrs. Ray tried to take Benjamin and one of her daughters to the back of their home, but then the tornado hit. It literally grabbed the children out of her grasp. Benjamin died. The 3 girls were hurt, one seriously. And after the terror had passed, relatives picking through the wreckage of that mobile home found the children's hamster huddled safely underneath a piece of plywood.
The monumental task of rebuilding Petersburg to its former glory received a major boost Monday. President Bush declared Pike and 18 other Hoosier counties federal disaster areas. The president's declaration makes tornado victims immediately eligible for low-interest loans. They can be used either to replace damaged homes or businesses.
Well, I think it's good because without it, a lot of people wouldn't have anything at all. I don't know what we'd do if we wouldn't get help because we lost everything.
You know, it's just going to take time. You know, we had a real bad lick here. It's just going to take an awful lot of time to get everything back together.
Petersburg residents will get a disaster assistance center by Friday. Others will be set up in Bedford and Paoli. Most of the help disaster victims will receive will come from the federal government. But right now, an official from the Indiana Emergency Management Agency is already on the scene lending a hand. All victims need is proper documentation.
It'd be good if they would bring in any expenses they have incurred. Receipts are the same, and a detailed description of exactly what happened. Photos would be great. They will fill out the application then. Inspector will go to the area and come back, and the application will be finished.
And the state is also stepping in with some special relief for those who lost their jobs because of Saturday's tornado. At the Pike County Association for Retarded Citizens Center, officials are offering disaster unemployment assistance.
If they cannot get to work, if they've lost their job, if the business has been destroyed, or if the spouse has suffered a severe injury or has in fact died, then the remaining member of the family can possibly come in and draw benefits.
Meanwhile, the small community of Petersburg continues to rebuild. Phone service is all but fully restored. Electricity is about 75% online, and the town's temporary water line is slowly being repaired. That's good news for the community, but there remains one big concern.
You know, we don't want to wind up with a trailer city, and, you know, we had a beautiful city here. It was an old city, and a lot of old houses were destroyed. We just want to, as a council and the mayor, we want to try to help people get back something permanent, you know, something for the future.
American Red Cross has also opened a family service center today at the old school gym in Petersburg. Of course, its purpose is to help provide the basic needs of housing, food, and clothing for the survivors of Saturday's tornadoes.
What they will do is come in and interview with our caseworkers, and of course we'll refer back to our damage assessment. And from that we'll determine, the extent of the assistance that we can provide. And of course this is a free service. This is a gift from the American people and never has to be repaid. I worked the Allendale, Illinois tornado, for example, and the Fort Branch tornado, and this is just a lot more widespread devastation, I think. And that's really the main difference, is that just more people were affected, and that's a lot harder.
That center is open daily to help provide relief. Now let's talk about some of the agencies that are also providing some help. The Red Cross is also offering temporary shelter and taking food to volunteers helping to clean up the damage. Supplies such as baby food, Pampers, clothing, bedding, soap, and some water are available at the First Christian Church at Main and Mulberry. Those donations have come from area Christian churches, and they'll be available from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. Meanwhile, WBKR Radio reports it has received just over $4,400 in relief aid pledges. WBKR will also be holding a radiothon Friday to try to help to add to that total.
Look what... You probably think that one's off.
We stand here today in the presence of the man who holds the power and authority of the office of the Vice Presidency of the United States of America. But we also stand in the midst of the result of the full power and authority of the natural forces which shape our world. For many of us and for Petersburg, we all endured the most significant 20 seconds of our lives. Today, Vice President Quayle comes to encourage us to expend the effort to finish the job of rebuilding Petersburg that we have started. Mr. Vice President, you were asked where the 1,000 points of light were in this country during your campaign. We in Petersburg would like you to know that our volunteerism has shone brightly and will continue to do so. We are that light, and we appreciate you adding your encouragement to that glow. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States, Dan Quayle.
You are part of his 1,000 points of light. Let me also just add this note. Thank God for all the volunteers that we have here in Petersburg. As I told so many of you today, that I am obviously delighted to be back in Petersburg, but not under these circumstances. But I can tell you, in the very short period of time that I've been here, I can feel the spirit of optimism and the spirit that say, yes, we've been devastated, but we're willing as a community and a neighborhood to move on. And we will move on. And I think that T-shirt says it all. We will survive come hell or high water. I was meeting with a number of the families that had...
A group of girls that sort of missed their big blowout because of this storm. And Vice President Quayle would like to have them come up right now. And this town wants to recognize them in this way. Lady Tragedy. Woo!
On behalf of the Pike Central Lady Chargers, Indiana State runner-up softball team, we'd like to present you with this T-shirt.
On behalf of the mayor, Jack Kimman, and all of our proud community of Petersburg, volunteers, and all the other help that we've had. We again thank you, and Quayle, for
there may be one. It'll stop.
it's going to mean a big boost to us, in my opinion. And so you won't forget us. I have one of the T-shirts that you were admiring earlier. Now, there's two requirements before I give it to you. One, you have to wear it on a golf course. And the second requirement, Jack Kimman doesn't play golf, but I do.
What do you want? I'm going to buy that. You will help Petersburg a little bit. Do you mind if I ask you a question on camera? Well, I wasn't at home at the time, but my house was.
All right, thanks.
What is your name, please? SUSANFLIN. Thanks a lot. No,
Channel 25. All right.
Take that one for me tonight, okay?
I got it. I got to take
Back down to the small community that the world will know what we've all been through. We've lost our town, and the time has come. First of all, if you could just tell me your initial reaction to the vice president coming to Petersburg.
Well, it's going to help out, you know. That's the only thing I can do is help out the situation, you know, help everybody work together. They've done a real good job already, but let people realize how bad the situation is for high.
This morning.
Vice President Dan Quayle toured the storm-damaged community to get a close-up look at the devastation caused by a series of early June tornadoes. Quayle spent a little over an hour in the city, and as John Gatson tells us, the Vice President is making rebuilding Petersburg a top priority.
The Vice President's whirlwind arrival stirred up about as much awe among Petersburg residents as the tornado had done 11 days ago. Vice President Dan Quayle flew into the storm-damaged community and was greeted by hordes of reporters and dozens of residents. Indiana's #1 citizen made the trip in order to get a first-hand look at the devastation caused by the June 2nd series of tornadoes. But before Quayle started his tour, the Vice President greeted several residents and relived for them his first tornado experience.
Playing in a golf tournament for DePaul. And it's just unbelievable. It just turns pitch black, and anybody that's been even close to a tornado knows how frightening and destructive it can be.
The next stop for Quayle was a meeting with several displaced families who had lost everything to the storm. The Vice President told the tornado-ravaged victims he was impressed by their spirit.
T-shirts that said that we'll survive come hell or high water. That's a high kind of spirit.
After this short visit was over, Quayle's tour of the damage began. He joined with Deputy Mayor Bob Riedel and checked out what remained of Mayor Jack Kinsman's house. The Hoosier native said rebuilding Petersburg is now a top priority.
Represented this great city for 8 years as United States Senator. Now I've represented him as Vice President for a year and a half. The process will go forward. Hopefully we can expedite it as quickly as possible.
But some townspeople are questioning whether the Vice President's visit will really help or not. Reporting from Petersburg, John Gatson, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
And reaction was mixed. Most Petersburg residents applauded Quayle's visit to their city, which they feel will attract more federal disaster assistance to rebuilding homes and businesses. But as Ryan Lemon reports now, some residents, including some volunteers, are questioning Quayle's appearance in Petersburg.
Thank you for your spirit. Thank you for your faith. And thank you for being the volunteers that you are that will once again rebuild this great community. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Vice President Quayle met with nearly 300 Petersburg residents and volunteers during his visit to the Moose Lodge. Pointing to the popular "We'll Survive Come Hell or High Water" t-shirt, he praised the people for keeping their spirits up despite the recent disaster. And afterwards, the townspeople praised him.
I think it's an honor for Petersburg to be able to have the Vice President visit under bad circumstances that he came, but I'm sure that most of the people appreciate his visit. It seemed like a nice thing for Petersburg Petersburg to help them to know that the government, or at least part of the government, is concerned about what's happening down here.
Thank God for all the volunteers that we have here in Petersburg.
Quill also praised the town's volunteers who are continuing the painstaking task of rebuilding the city.
We've had hundreds and hundreds of volunteers. The place would not look the way it does today as far as the streets and the trees being removed and so forth if it had been for all these volunteers. They're to be congratulated.
I think it's nice. Why wouldn't it be? I think it's great.
Yet others felt like the vice president's visit was merely for cosmetic purposes.
Well, it should get him a few votes. What good is he going to do? They've already declared it a disaster area. They know what they're going to get out of it. If he wants to see what it is, it's just like I was. I thought everybody should see something like this. Make them more aware of what can happen to them.
In Petersburg, Ryan Lemon, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.